seekers and justice warriors. Let's ride Z's, your storyteller with that fire in her eyes. A ride or die, dogs riding shotgun by her side. Moon rolls with us through the dark of night, and we're ready for the fight in the wilderness where predators hunt, where the system fails and cases grow cold. We're shining our light on the other side, on the stories that need to be told. Welcome to justice after dark, where cold cases never rest. Every name deserves to be heard, from the missing to the murdered, because even in darkness, justice needs a voice. Join the story, make some noise. Justice belongs to everyone. We bring it to light. Through cold case files where time stands still, Indigenous voices echo from the void. The forgotten names, we still remember them. We won't ignore any missing souls. Building bridges, breaking walls, answering justice's call. One community, one voice. In the darkness we rejoice, sharing stories left behind, every truth we can find. Welcome to justice after dark, where cold cases never sleep. Every name deserves to be heard, for the missing and the murdered, because even in darkness, justice deserves a voice. Join the story, make some noise. Justice belongs to everyone. We bring it to light. So buckle up, trial junkies, truth seekers and justice warriors. The road ahead gets bumpy as we guide you through another set of stories that need justice. Welcome to Justice After Dark. The adventure starts now. One community, one voice.
Live on the air, Trial Junkies United presents Justice After Dark with your host, Z.
Thank you, Doc. I appreciate it. And hey, everybody, this one's going to be important. Thank you for being here. We have Southern Gal, True Crime, Pammy, Mustang, Ken Rosenberg. Of course, we have our Irish.
Our
little
Irish Luna Fairy.
Yes.
Yes.
And for anyone coming in, I'm not going to be chatting a lot. Doc will watch comments for me. So if something's important, we'll get it out there because we have a lot of information to cover. And this is a big one, guys. And it's one we have to talk about. So welcome to all the trial junkies, the truth seekers, and the justice warriors. I'm Z, your storyteller in the wilderness of injustice with my ride or die Doc riding shotgun as we navigate the darkness, and it's going to get dark. The predators are hunting and the system's failing. But we're going to shine a light on the forgotten stories society's just not looking at. Doc, are you ready for this one?
Yes, I am.
Put up a trigger warning for those that might need it. But buckle up. Tonight's path is one of the most difficult we've walked. Before we go anywhere, you need to know what the episode is about because you deserve to decide before we start. Tonight, we're discussing a group called the Comm, the Cult, which is C, V as in Victor, L as in Larry, T as in Tango, and 764. These are three interconnected online networks that the FBI considers among the biggest emerging threats to children in this country. There are others out there also that are part of this group. We will examine the systematic targeting and sexual exploitation of minors, the coercion of children into self-harm, live streamed, why they unalive themselves. Yeah, it's big. And also the deletion of a 13-year-old boy named Jay, whose parents are still seeking answers. And if you have children in the room, this is your moment. You might ask them to leave. If you're struggling yourself, 988. It is a crisis hot lifeline. It's available now 24/7. We cover this because silence is not an option, you guys. Too many parents don't even realize that this is happening. Too many children are being targeted right now on all different platforms that we trust and some that we don't trust. So let's get started. Hey, Louise, glad you joined us. Here we go. His name was Jay. Jay was up in Gig Harbor, Washington, a lush suburban area of Seattle. He was artistic, crafty, and loving. He sold handmade creation on Etsy. One day he made a video holding up his work and saying to the camera, "Look at how awesome this is." And I'm not using last names. This is his mother, and his parents described him as someone who shared love with anybody. He'd come out as transgender. He struggled during the pandemic and was hospitalized briefly for, harming himself. But by January of 2022, things were turning around. He had found what he believed was a safe community online, friends who shared his love of crafts because he loved to crochet, people who seemed to see him because he had actually posted that he was looking for friends, preferably LGBTQ, for crochet buddies. That's harmless, right? There was a member of the online network known as 764, saw the post, and they decided Jay would be their next target. On January 17th of 2022 at 4 in the morning, Jay, who was 13 years old, got manipulated into unaliving himself from a grocery store fence near his home. And that's not the worst. Members of the 764 network were watching on a Discord stream because that's what they make these children do, live stream it. They were typing and egging him on, telling him to even take off his clothes because it would be hotter. They bragged in a group chat afterward that they'd gotten him to do it, and they said they wanted to do it again. Jay's parents didn't even know any of this at first. They just got a knock on the door and the worst news of their life. It wasn't until days later when a teenager in Australia reached out. This girl who had herself been a target of 764, a girl who had seen what had happened, that they learned their son didn't just die. He was actually taken by the internet, by a network of people who watched it happen and called it entertainment. His father said, "I know what killed my Jay. It was Discord, because that was the doorway these bad guys used. People we never would have let into our home were able to walk right through." And Jay's parents are now suing Discord. And I have questions. As parents, we teach the children, don't talk to strangers. Stranger danger. If someone comes up and you feel frightened, you run. It's the guy in the messy looking clothes, the guy in the trench coat. No, it's not. That's not where they're coming from. They're coming right in our homes, and we allow it without realizing what's happening. But before we go into more about 764, let's talk about cult. And as you can see, they spell their little name different. And in order to understand what happened to Jay and to hundreds of other children currently that are being targeted all across all 55 FBI field offices in this country are on this. and they understand what 764 actually is. And to understand them, we have to understand where it came from. Because 764 didn't appear out of nowhere. It was born from something called cult, pronounced just like the word cult, because that's exactly what they are. It was created in 2019 by a then 23-year-old Indian business school student named Rohan Ran, living in Antibes, France, and I probably
Antibes.
Thank you.
Antibes, yeah.
He started it as a Discord community, later claiming he was bored during COVID, during the lockdowns. And that's something I want you all to realize, is that it used to be mainly girls would get what they call sextortion, and which is blackmail using sex. But since COVID, they said more boys have fallen into this trap. So we're going to touch on this. And he described it, and I'm quoting directly from the prosecutors, as an online group that espoused neo-Nazism, nihilism, and also being, the P word, child creepers, at its core principles. And sadly, a lot of these, they don't put pictures out of these creatures, or trust me, I'd be plastering them all over. He amassed over 150 members in his Discord server, and then he started recruiting children. He would find underage girls on Instagram, Roblox. He would pretend to be in a romantic relationship with them. And once he would talk them into one photograph, usually they had to be nude or partially nude. He had leverage. And that moment he had leverage, he used it. He later wrote a guide actually titled How to Get a Girl, in which he described his victims as prey and himself as a guru. He wrote that his ultimate goal is to create an endless supply of masochistic people to satisfy my sadism. He described blackmail as not unethical. He described ethics as a weakness to be eliminated. He said, we lack morals and ethics as we think they are not necessary. Rohan Ran was not some ghost in the machine. He was a person. He made choices, and those choices destroyed the lives of children across Canada, the United Kingdom, Germany, New Zealand, Estonia, and the United States. When French authorities finally arrested him in 2021 of April, they searched his home. They found more than a dozen videos on his phone and computer showing girls between the age of 11 and 16 filming themselves in acts of self-harm, doing all sorts of things with sharp, pointy objects, also strangling themselves using, belts, drinking bleach, crying. While in custody, Rohan Ran described himself as a psychopath devoid of any emotion. He said he felt excited by seeing blood and violence. He was later permitted access to his phone while incarcerated. He used it to continue his activities. And I have questions about how that happened.
Yeah, why would they do something like that? Ugh.
Really? This is a man that's reaching out to children and so, hey, here, have a phone. Yeah. That's terrible. But it didn't even start with the cult. It started with the Comm, which is short for the community. This is an international online criminal network operating across the US, Canada, the UK, internationally. And it's not one group, but a network of networks, cyber criminals, extremists, child predators, and violent offenders who share members, resources, and ideology. And in the photo, you can see you have 764. There's also a couple of other groups. Maniac Murder Cult, which is MKY, No Lives Matter, NLM. These are things to look for. The FBI issued public warnings about the Comm in July of 2025. According to the National Crime Agency, their crimes increased 6 times between 2022 and 2024. So we have to understand how this all gets put together. And this is the hierarchy. And you need to understand before anything else, the Comm is the overarching international cyber criminal network, the umbrella over everything. Cult is a member of the group that operated directly under the Comm, a neo-Nazi child exploitation organization whose leaders are now federal defendants. 764 is a decentralized international sextortion network that originated from the cult in 2021. And when the cult splintered and expanded into something even larger and more difficult to control, both cult and 764 intentionally adopted neo-Nazi aesthetics and imagery, not solely out of ideology, but it was conviction, but as a means to shock, intimidate, elevate their status within their criminal communities. The hate acts as a weapon. The children are the victims. Together, these three entities and others represent one of the most dangerous intersections of cybercrime, child exploitation, and extremist ideology that law enforcement has ever documented. Think about that. Hey, Katrina. Yeah, there's even a music group, I think out of Sweden or something, that uses part of that name, the cult. If I was them, I'd be changing it. Mm-hmm. 3 branches of the Comm cyber attacks: data theft, SIM swapping, ransomware, and money laundering. They're responsible for 9-figure attacks on MGM, Reddit, Caesars Entertainment, Coinbase, and others. These aren't small groups. Sextortion comms targets minors primarily, recruits through gaming platforms and social media. They build fake relationships. Then they blackmail the victims into producing increasingly violent and sexual content. And this branched more directly connected to cult and 764. Offline, Comm is a real world violence. They actually go out and commit crimes such as with pointing knives, in people, you know what I'm trying to say, arson, terrorism, and unprovoked attacks on strangers. They include neo-Nazi accelerants and satanic subgroups. 764 is the most dominant and dangerous group within the branch. How they recruit: the grooming pipeline is identical to what your audience heard with the cult case, and it's no coincidence because they're all directly connected, so they all use the same playbook. The Comm contacts a victim on Discord, Telegram, Roblox, Minecraft, Twitch, Stream, many of the others, Snapchat. They begin with kindness, romance. They build trust. They extract private information, then flip to blackmail, demanding increasingly violent content, including self-harm, harming their own pets, producing CSAM. If the victim refuses, they threaten to swat the family, dox them, or release images publicly. Sadly, I've watched some of these videos. I've done that so you don't have to. Louise, you're right. Order of the 9 Angles is another group. They're sitting there telling these girls to do these things. And these girls are sitting there begging, please no. And they're saying, yes, you have to, because otherwise I'm going to release your naked photos. They get them to harm their own pets. Think about that. To harm their little siblings. So just, it's terrible. Okay,
All
thanks,
right.
therapist.
Thank you.
But cult was established by 2020 at the latest. Its leaders included this piece of work: Caleb Christopher Merritt. And this little sleazeball managed Discord servers. He controlled memberships. He coerced victims, developed a documented child exploitation network with at least 16 named minor victims across multiple states. In 2021, as law enforcement started closing in on Colt, it kind of fractured a bit. From that split, 764 emerged. Decentralized, international, and intentionally much harder to prosecute. The FBI is currently investigating over 350 cases linked to these violent online groups. Investigators from the US, France, the UK, New Zealand, Europol are all involved. The children recruited today in a gaming server could be a 764 victim by next week. Notable incidents. We're going to talk about one that happened in 2024. A Comm member stole 243 million in Bitcoin. Yeah, only caught after an independent online investigator tracked him down in Sweden. Comm affiliated members carried out 6 random street assaults in one city over 3 months in 2024. In August 2025, children on Roblox were being recruited into a cult called Spawnism, convinced to carve a symbol into their skin, believing they could respawn like a video game character. The Spawnism cult is believed to be operated by Comm groups. So think about that. And what these kids do is once they get a picture of a child without clothes on or doing an act on themselves, they have leverage. We have to be able to talk to our children about this. You can't attack the child for doing it, but you have to let them know this is something they don't share with people online. And truthfully, adults, quit taking pictures of yourself without your clothes on. I don't care if you're sending them to your loved one, your husband, your partner. Don't do it. Because they might not always be your partner or your husband or whatever. And then those photos are out there. So let's just think about that. Also, wherever your child is using the computer, look behind them. Are there things in the room that show where they're from? Do they have signs from their stickers from their school? Is there something that helps them locate where your child is at? Think about it. Now, we're going to talk about Edward Korstein. And it borders a little bit on political. I am not a political person, okay? So we don't talk politics. So don't jump in and start talking politics. But this guy we have to talk about. Because Edward Korstein is a 19-year-old who was hired as one of the earliest staffers on Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency, his DOGE group, okay? And his group, that gave him direct access to federal agencies, including the GSA, the DHS, and the CISA. The agencies specifically responsible for protecting the U.S. Cybersecurity, infrastructure. Security experts have linked an account associated with this kid who calls himself Big Balls on the internet directly to the Comm. Yes, he's associated with the Comm. He was also connected to a cybercrime group called eGodly, involved in data theft and swatting operations before DOGE. He was fired from a 2022 internship at cybersecurity company called Path Network for allegedly leaking internal information to a rival. He was widely known online under the handle Big Balls. So in 2022, he's fired from Path Network, cybersecurity internship for alleged data leak. Early 2025, he gets hired onto DOGE, granted access to all these special things that he should not have access to. 2025, security experts publicly flag his Comm connections and swatting ties. 2025 moves between agencies, including DHS and the Social Security Administration. 2025, he actually leaves the administration. 2025, there's reported assault in Washington, D.C. This is not a political story. It is a child safety story. This isn't about left or right. It's about a teenager with documented connections to a criminal hacking and swatting network being given control of the Department of Homeland Security, the same department responsible for investigating these online child exploitation. So think about that. He has the access and he can get in there and play with it. The same network he is linked to has created a grooming pipeline targeting your children through Discord, Roblox, and Telegram right now. The Comm was not just at the door. The Comm was inside the building. The bottom line, the Comm is the umbrella. Cult was the chapter, and 764 is what cult became when the walls started closing in. Sextortion Comm is the recruitment machine that runs it all. And a 19-year-old with ties to this network was sitting inside the federal agency tasked with stopping them. They're not in the dark alley, you guys. They're not outside your child's school. They are in the app your child opened 20 minutes ago. Your grandchild, your child, your niece, your nephew, your neighbor's children that you care about. They are in the group chat you don't know exists. They are already inside the house. Think about that. Jay was on a Discord for crocheting. Who would have thought that would have been bad? Oh boy. But here's the thing about cult. It might never have been fully unraveled without one college student who refused to be silent. She went to Iowa State University police officer who believed her. In 2020, an unnamed Iowa State University student came forward. She'd been a minor when she first encountered a man online. He had blackmailed her, and instead of staying silent out of shame or fear, she walked into the police department and said, "This is not okay." Officer Cammie Field took that tip, and she spent 4 years following it. Field has said, "I've been in awe of her since the beginning. She was being blackmailed and had the strength and bravery to come forward." What that one student's tip revealed was a vast international network. Field shifted through countless subpoenas, online banking records, IP addresses. She discovered a fake address hidden in the evidence. She traced it to Hawaii. In August of 2021, they flew there with federal agents and sat across from a 41-year-old man named Clint Borge. She asked him about his computer skills. He bowed his head and said, "Obviously not tech savvy enough, otherwise you wouldn't be here." That's when she knew. The Department of Justice ultimately charged 4 men with running a child exploitation enterprise. The indictment was filed on January 17th of 2025 and unsealed on January 30th. The 4 defendants were Rohan Sandeep Ran, 28, of Antibes, France. The founder has been in French custody since 2022 and is awaiting extradition on U.S. charges. My question, why? Get him out there. Bring him over. Colin John Thomas Walker, 23, of Bridgeton, New Jersey, one of Cult's servers administrators. He pleaded guilty in October of 2025. Clint Jordan Lapaka, Borge. I'm not going to try that other name because he's from Hawaii. It's one of those really long names. 41, of Pahoa, Hawaii, pleaded guilty in December of 2025. And Caleb Christopher Merritt, 26 years old, from Spring, Texas, online alias eTerror 09A.evil or the Chariot or Psychopath. Those are his handles. 3 days ago, on March 26, 2026, Caleb Merritt pleaded guilty to 1 count of operating a child exploitation enterprise. He's scheduled for sentencing on January 7th, 2027, before the U.S. District Judge Hernan D. Vera. He faces a mandatory minimum of 20 years in federal prison with the possibility of up to life, and that federal sentence will be added to the 33 years he's already serving in Virginia, because Merritt was no stranger to law enforcement. And here's what Caleb Merritt actually did before the federal cult case. And I need you to hear this one. In Virginia, they launched an investigation that eventually brought down the network. Merritt had been grooming a 12-year-old girl since 2020. A 12-year-old. He found her on Instagram. He moved her to Discord. And that's what these people do. Hey, Stormy, they get you on one program and then they move you to where they got more control. It can be Discord. It can be Snapchat. It can be Telegram. He built what he thought was a relationship. Then he traveled from Texas to Virginia, set up a tent in the woods behind her house. On February 12th of 2021, the child's great-grandmother reported her missing. An Amber Alert was issued. He learned police were involved. He instructed the girl to hide her phone. She concealed it in a saxophone case. He and the child were found 36 hours later in Henderson, North Carolina. She later told investigators that he had made her carve his name into her leg. He was convicted of kidnapping and SAing her. Investigators immediately flagged him as a serial predator. They identified contact with at least one other Henry County girl and a victim in separate state. He was later charged with abusing 4 more children and is now serving 33 years at Pocahontas State Correctional Center. He is a Tier 3 sex offender with a lifetime registration requirement. At least 16 named minor victims are documented in the federal cult indictment. Former U.S. Attorney Martin Estrada said the volume of material recovered suggests hundreds of additional unidentified victims may still be out there. HSI led the federal investigation, working alongside the Los Angeles Police Department, San Bernardino County Sheriff's Office, law enforcement in Virginia, Iowa, France, the United Kingdom, New Zealand, and Europol. That's why I want you guys to realize this is not just a small little group. These are huge. They're international. And I have questions about why did it take them from February 2021 to January 2025 to charge this man who set up a tent in the woods behind a 12-year-old girl's house with running an international child exploitation enterprise? Come on. Cult didn't end when Rohan Rand was arrested. It metastasized. And in 2021, a 15-year-old boy in Stevensville, Texas, named Bradley Cadenhead was already a troubled kid. He was bullied relentlessly from a broken home. He was put on juvenile detention for making terroristic threats in middle school. That's what you find with a lot of this group. And there are some girls, don't think there aren't, but a lot of them are young boys and men. Think about that. Boys and men. Yeah, Pammy, it's scary to think. He was here in Texas. He found cult's Discord community. He absorbed everything. Rohan Rand built the manipulation, the leverage, the blackmail pipeline, and then he decided to build something bigger. His room and his bathroom were by his own account and the account of Stephenville police his entire existence. He hadn't been in school for months. He dropped out at 15. From his bedroom, sitting at his computer, he launched what would become one of the fastest growing online threats in the world. Think about that. He called it 764. The name came from the first 3 digits of his zip code in Stevensville, Texas, 76401. He went by the name Felix. In April 2021, he joined a chat room called No Feds Paradise and posted thousands of images users described as gore and child adult pictures. When someone told him to stop, he typed back, "Try harder." When someone threatened to report him to the FBI, he responded, "I've already been reported to the FBI 15 times and they haven't done anything. Have you seen the stuff I've been doing for almost a year now?" He was finally arrested in August of 2021. And in 2023, a judge looked at him in court, listed every one of the Bible's 7 deadliest sins by name, and said there was evidence of all of them in this case. Then turned directly to this little sleazebag and said, There is something horribly wrong with you. Horribly. Prosecutor Jet Smith told the judge, very rarely do we get a chance to look evil in the face. This may be one of those times. Bradley Cadenhead was sentenced to 80 years in federal prison, but 764 didn't miss a beat because they kept evolving. And actually, he's actually supposed to be coming up for parole soon. I don't know how you get 80 years and you get a chance at parole. They need to keep that kid locked down, because when you start at 15 years old, this kind of stuff, I don't see where there's going to be help for you.
It's the lovely system that we reside under.
Yeah. And Julia, you're right. These networks have existed for a long time, but they've gotten worse and worse. Mm-hmm. Because now children are actually unaliving themselves. These creatures are putting it online. They're making them live stream themselves. These children do this to themselves as their entertainment. It's like we're back in the gladiator days. Only you're making them do it for your entertainment. And we're going to pause here for a sec, because we're going to use a word that law enforcement uses, and it's nihilism. And I don't want it just to be background noise. I want you to understand exactly what it means, because it's the operating system behind everything we're covering tonight. Nihilism at its core holds the life that has no meaning, morality, has no foundation, nothing can be known for certainty. At the extreme end, it concludes that nothing has value, not rules, not other people, not life itself. Most nihilists are not dangerous. What makes Cult and 764 different is they weaponized that ideology. Hey, Ms. Barbara. The FBI coined a term for what emerged as nihilistic violent extremism, NVE. The Bureau defines NVE as individuals who engage in criminal conduct driven primarily by a hatred of society and a desire to bring about its collapse through chaos, destruction, and instability. Here's why that framework matters. If nothing has value, then children have no value. Their suffering becomes entertainment. If no morality exists, then there are no limits on what can be demanded of victims. If destruction is the point, then pushing a child to harm themselves and harm others or end their life on a live stream isn't just cruelty to them. In this world, it's currency. It's how you earn rank. Yeah, that's how they rank up. They have like different steps. The FBI Counterterrorism Division doesn't use the NVE label by accident. Researchers at National Consortium for the Study of Terrorism site have identified more than 24 federal arrests in recent years that fall squarely into this classification. And since 2021, these networks have been linked to nearly 50 cases worldwide, including at least 20 crimes on U.S. soil. And some of them are school shootings, arson sprees. In Wisconsin, allegedly involved a 12-year-old, and an unknown number of unalivings driven by coordinated online coercion. One number puts all of this perspective. The National Center of Missing and Exploited Children Cyber Tipline receives over 1,300 reports related to violent online groups in 2024. Hey, PJ. That is more than 200% increase over 2023 and over 1,500% increase since 2022. It's not a trend, it's an explosion, and it's not staying online. On August 27th of 2025, a 23-year-old gunman entered Annunciation Catholic Church in Minneapolis, and I butchered that. That also was a school during the first week of the fall semester. He barricaded the doors and opened fire on children in the pews. 2 died, and at least 17 others were injured. Researchers reviewing materials from the attacker uploaded found multiple markers tied to nihilistic violent subcultures, neo-Nazi references, violent online communities, and writings that mirror the patterns commonly found across NVE networks. That's what happens when someone absorbs the ideology that nothing matters and destruction is power and eventually gets activated in the real world. Now, the Canadian RCMP sergeant put it plainly. They're creating agents of chaos to be activated within our society at a later time. I have questions about that. Many of those agents are already activated and they're just waiting. And this is the part we need every parent in the audience and grandparent to hear, because 764's recruitment strategy is specifically designed to be invisible to you. The National Center for Missing and Exploited Children has documented 3 stages of how these predators operate. They map onto 764's playbook exactly. Stage 1 is the approach. Contact starts on social media and a gaming platform where children already are. Roblox, Discord, Telegram, TikTok, Instagram, even music forums. Members don't announce themselves. They search hashtags. Hashtag ED recovery, hashtag mental health, hashtag bipolar. They pose as peers, cartoon avatars, relatable bios, casual messages. They build what looks like a friendship, perhaps a romantic relationship. The FBI has been specific about who 764 deliberately hunts. The network targets minors between 8 and 17. They particularly focus on LGBTQ community, youth, children from ethnic and racial minorities, and those already struggling with depression, eating disorders, or having unaliving thoughts. Jay, he posted looking for LGBTQ crafting friends. And that's why he was targeted in part, because that post marked him as someone who might be isolated and searching for community, and without people around who would recognize the warning signs. It's not incidental. They're being strategic. Stage 2 is coercion. Once trust is established, offenders use bait, money, drugs, fake modeling opportunities, the fabricated romantic interest to get the child to produce at least one picture, one piece of material, one photo, a video, one moment of compliance. That's all they need, and they got you. Predators may also hack accounts or use AI-generated content to manufacture leverage from nothing. That's all they needed. Stage 3 is the threats. Once they have something on you, they threaten to release it. They demand more content. They threaten harm to the child's family, because by then they figured out who are your parents. Your child has given out too much information. They've threatened to destroy the child's reputation, and they follow through. One young girl or one young boy had a picture that he had taken nude because he thought he was sending it to a woman. And because he wouldn't do what they wanted him to, they sent the picture to his sister. Can you imagine opening up a picture and it's your brother unclothed? That had to be a little horrifying for her and for him. Mm-hmm. But they'll also, and they mean it, they will send it to your school. They will swat families. They have doxed their victims. They have doxed families. They've sent SWAT teams to people's homes. In one case in Connecticut, a former honor roll student was drawn in by a man overseas she'd met on Roblox. He became, in her mind, her boyfriend. And by the time local police arrested her, they found photos of her cutting herself. They found a Barbie doll that she had marked with 764 on its forehead, and a note written in her own blood calling her an abuser, her abuser, a god. And she had been directing bomb threats at her own school under his orders. When her family tried to cut her off contact with 764, SWAT teams started showing up at their home. There's something else parents need to understand, something HSI's forensic interview specialists have specifically flagged, because it changes how you think about the danger. Many of the kids inside these groups are not being directly targeted by adults. Many of them are actively seeking these communities out. They find the Comm on their own while looking for belonging. And once inside, the coercion doesn't always feel like a threat. It feels at first like trust, like belonging, and then one day it doesn't. The victim to perpetrator pipeline is not a side effect of these networks, you guys. It's a feature. Kids who enter as victims are deliberately cultivated into becoming predators themselves. When a teenager targets another teenager using the exact same methodology an adult predator would use, the system often dismisses it as kids being kids. It's not kids being kids. It's the network replicating itself. FBI Assistant Director David Scott put it plainly. He said, the more gore, the more violence that raises their stature within the groups, it's a badge of honor within some of these groups to actually do the most harm to victims. Members earn rank by producing evidence of what they've done. They keep what they call lore books, digital folders of abuse content and trophies of suffering. And then they trade it and they sell it. They teach each other how to do this because one person said, I don't know how to do that. And another told him, I'll tell you, I'll teach you how to do it. So think about that. They're getting these children to also abuse their own younger siblings, and I mean young ones. One poor girl had so many scars on herself from cutting into her. They get them to cut their names of their torturer. Think about that. This is something that they will live with for a lifetime. And the mother said by the time she found out what was going on, she said, I had to put our pets up at night. So I locked my bedroom door and was in with the pets, and I carried a weapon when I slept. From her own daughter. Think about that. Because these kids get so brainwashed. Now, this is Jack Rocker of Tampa. He collected over 8,300 videos and images across multiple devices that the Department of Justice describes some of the most horrific, evil content available on the internet. The material was not just passively gathered, it was systematically organized into labeled folders: 764, child gore, self-harm, essay, and trophies, which contain images of young girls who carved or written Rocker's username into their own bodies. The folder is now part of the federal court record. Rocker was sentenced to only 84 months, 7 years. He will serve that time and then walk out under a lifetime supervised release with $126,500 in restitution owed to his victims and some of the most restrictive post-release conditions as a federal court can impose. What we saw with the one guy in France, they gave him back his phone and he started in again. So yeah, how restrictive is it going to be?
Yeah, after 7 years, he's going to start all over again.
Yeah. I mean, when you start out as a predator at this age, I'm sorry. No plea deals for predators. If you're a child predator, I don't care what age, what sex you are, you don't get to come out. You don't get to come out. And a lot of these guys are only getting 7 years. Prosecutors signaled that terrorism enhancements will be pursued in future 764 related cases. You know, and that's why I think maybe we'll finally start seeing better sentences. But 7 years, I mean, what is a trophies file full of children's carved skin worth? I mean, come on, I've got questions about that. Why did he only get 7 years? Someone didn't do their job. I want to tell you about a boy we're going to call Elliot. It's not his full name. The article I read, they protected his identity because he was still a minor. And Elliot was 14 when 9th grade started. His friends group had fractured. His parents were separating and he was starting a new high school. With a new smartphone, he went looking for community in spaces where other users shared love of music, specifically black metal. These were predators in this forum, waiting. His mother, Dana, had taken what she considered common sense precautions, okay? She had parental controls, screen time limits, social media blocked, regular spot checks. She thought she knew what she was watching for. What she didn't know was that her son was being fed a slow drip of content designed to change him from the inside out. They redirected him to gore sites, real and AI generated depictions of violence to desensitize him before the demands began. Dana describes it this way: they get you to follow these different accounts and view these different websites. The algorithms just help that process along. And it creates where you're so flooded with this content, it desensitizes you to the violence. Over months, she began to notice changes. Her son was withdrawing, talking about death, expressing nihilistic views she'd never heard before. Like there's no meaning to anything. It's hopeless. Everything was meaningless, which she described as completely out of character. He began going on tirades against LGBTQ people. Their family had trans and non-binary members in it. His closest friends had been LGBTQ. She said it was like watching a stranger take over her son's body. He also began to self-harm. When he was hospitalized in early 2024, the full picture emerged. Medical staff found his upper body, torso, arms, covered in cuts he had inflicted on himself. Some would leave permanent scars. The marks had mostly been made within the prior week. Among them, upside-down crosses, pentagrams, symbols associated with the Order of Nine Angles, a satanic neo-Nazi terrorist group, and symbols Dana later learned had been called out signs for 764. Markers to the network instructs victims to carve unto themselves to single membership. Remember, 764 was started by some little bullied kid in his room in Texas, and he's got this huge group. It blows your mind. The school violence officer who called Dana the next morning said it immediately. I suspect your son is being extorted or has been contacted by a group called 764. She spent 2 hours going through her son's phone. She says she still has nightmares from what she found. He had been spending 12 to 14 hours a day on Reddit, YouTube, TikTok, and Discord. She found hundreds of photos he had taken of himself, categorized as child self-harm, sexual content, small cuts that escalated to deep cuts, his torso, his thighs, his arms, fully naked photos, a documented escalation in the photographs of what the network had done to him, stage by stage. The FBI told Dana that Elliot needed 30 to 60 days of inpatient care, primarily just to detox from these networks. No facility was equipped for this. He received less than 2 weeks inpatient, then 7 hours of therapy a day as an outpatient. He has survived and he's doing better. He's traded his smartphone for a flip phone and returned to making music. Dana put it plainly. It's a form of coercive control. It's that drip, 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 and you don't realize how bad it is until maybe you're out of it. The officer who first called her was direct. They were probably days away from a horrible outcome. Elliot harming himself, harming someone else, or making contact with a 764 member in person. Dana now speaks out. She says when she tells people what happened, she gets one of two reactions. Either, that can never happen to us. We have parental controls, and our kid would never do that. Or, I had no idea. Please tell me more. If you're in the first group, sit with what Elliot's mother just told you. She had parental controls, screen time limits, spot checks. She thought she knew. I have questions about what it takes for this country to stop telling parents that screen time limits are the answer, though. Let's bring another real voice, because these aren't statistics. These are children. A young woman spoke to the LA Times about what happened to her. She said the abuse started in 2020 when she was 15. She received an invite to a Discord chat from a user she'd met in what seemed like a harmless gaming server. He told her he was young, maybe 15 or 17. She thought based on the way he typed, once she was added to the chat, two men sent her a dump, screenshots of everything they had already collected about her. Her home address, her school address, photos of her family, the location where her little sister played sports. It was screenshots of everything, anything that she held dear. They sent her videos of SWAT teams raiding homes and told her this is what happens to people who disobey us. Then came the orders. Turn on your camera, do exactly what we say. Even if you did tell your parents, they're not going to be able to find out who we are, and we won't leave you alone. She said, I was just being held at gunpoint in my point of view, so I was like, I'm just going to do what I need to do. The two men continued to escalate their demands. In 2021, one of them threatened to release all of the content unless she took her life. She says, I would have rather not be seen in that light than being in the light of day at all because of how humiliating the things they got me to say and do were. Her alleged abusers were Rohan Ran and Caleb Merritt, are among the four men now charged with running the cult enterprise. Merritt pleaded guilty 3 days ago. She survived and she's spoken out. And because she did, and because others like her did, investigators are able to build some cases. That's courage. That is true courage. Now, here is what matters beyond the headlines. Arrests. 764 is not confined to anyone's city, anyone's state, or anyone's suspect. In Athens, Alabama, 24-year-old Landon Westfall was arrested and charged with 2 counts of assisted unaliving, 261 counts of indecent behavior with a juvenile, and 15 counts of child adult photo possession. Federal investigators allege Westfall used Roblox, a platform marketed to children as young as 5, to groom a girl. He drew her onto other platforms, and then he sexually exploited her. He coerced her into self-harm, and he allegedly pressured her to end her life on video. Under threats of further harm, 764 was not explicitly named in the press release, but law enforcement sources note that the method closely matches 764's documented playbook, making the involvement in the broader network highly likely. What makes this case particularly significant? Westfall is the third suspect identified in Athens, Alabama alone. The third. The other 2, Carson Albert Butler and a teenager co-defendant, were connected and attended Athens High School. These suspects, one small city, one network, reaching into every community in America. Think about that. In November of 2025, FBI Baltimore arrested 20-year-old Eric Lee Madsen of Hallthorpe, Maryland. He was a member of 764, and according to the prosecutors, he used Escort after he got him off Roblox to coerce multiple minor females in chat logs. He asked a 14-year-old girl, "Can you cut today? I need you to use your blood to draw on a wall." And then he exploited her and 10 other minor females. In early 2026, he pleaded guilty in federal court to sexual exploitation of a child and cyberstalking. FBI Baltimore announced the case alongside Anne Ardoulin County Police Department and Baltimore County Police. 10 children, 1 man. A gaming platform built for kids and a messaging app for years 764 operated almost without consequence. And that's the thing. Some of these groups, they start out as these young guys, right? But it draws the child creepers because they hear about it and they start going over there. And they start getting more stuff for their lore books or whatever they want to call it. And it breaks your heart because these children are just, they're being sacrificed pretty much to these creeps. But this next case, this was one that Chris Hansen talked to the father. This one really got to me. And her name was Penelope, and she was 16. She was creative, athletic, a volleyball team captain who rose to overhand serves before anyone else on her team. She wrote poetry. She did digital art. her father, Jason, described her as someone who had a fantastic way of seeing the world. She was on roadblocks, and at some point, she crossed paths with 764. And what happened next wasn't sudden. It never is, you guys. It starts slow. When Jason first noticed a scratch on his daughter's arm, he and her mother moved fast. They got counselors involved. Jason moved back into the home because they had split up, but him and his wife decided he should come back. They monitored her. They paid attention. All of the social media that she was on, he was on with her so he could see what she was saying. They did everything a parent is supposed to do. Within 2 to 3 months, they were dealing with their first unaliving attempt. The hospital, a psychiatrist ward, law enforcement, protection orders, and lawyers. And here's the part that stopped me cold because no one's talking about it loudly enough. When Penelope was admitted to the psychiatric care, a protection order was served against her father. Now you're going to say, why was it against her father? Because this group, 764, teaches these kids what to do. They teach them to get to a hospital. They talk some of them into going to shelters so they're more easily accessible. They tell them how to turn on their parents. Think about that. And so she claimed he had mentally and physically abused her whole life. And it was written in his daughter's hand, but none of it was true. He did admit that when she was 7 years old, at one time, he had slapped her. And he had apologized. He had gone to anger management, and he said, I never touched her again. He later connected with other parents who had experienced the exact same thing, word for word, because it's a tactics. They believe 764 is coaching the victims to make false accusations against the parents, trying to protect them, specifically to remove the parent out of the picture. Because if the parent's out of the picture, out of the house, hey, now you've got freedom to go after the child. Now there's no one blocking access. He found Discord opened up on her laptop while she was hospitalized, and what was on her screen were not support groups. They were chat rooms, sharing techniques for self-harm. How to cut, how to get diagnosed, how to stay in a psychiatric ward longer, how to get parental restrictions lifted. A bucket list of self-destruction, children helping each other go deeper. He said, they're not coming after your kid to destroy your kid. They're coming after your kid to see what destruction they can do to themselves, their families, their community, and the institutions around them. On February 6th, she didn't make it because she made another attempt. She would have been 17. Her father's still talking. He's still warning parents. He's been doxxed. He's had the perpetrator call him. He said, this is a new terror. It almost is like they have corporate sponsorship. How are these many children in these psychiatric wards right now whose parents have been coached out of the room? The psychiatrist, who was a young student who didn't know diddly, was very sarcastic. And it just broke my heart that this guy did not dive deeper into what was happening. He just took the girl's word. And now she's gone. I wonder how that student doctor's feeling these days. And let's talk about the platforms. Here's the Titan version, okay? Discord is a messaging and voice platform. And originally, they built it for gamers. We have a Discord server. It can be very useful if you're an adult. It now has hundreds of millions of users on it, though. It has been the primary infrastructure through which Cult and 764 operate for years. Jay found his crochet friends there. Samuel, a 25-year-old man from Minnesota in the middle of a mental health crisis, found what he thought was community on Discord. He also ended up unaliving himself after a girl in the group was wanting to rank up and talked him into doing it. and he live streamed it. 29 people watched and cheered. His mother was devastated when she found out. The platform did not ban that account that encouraged his death for 3 years. Jay's parents are suing Discord. They allege the platform supplied 764 with unlimited victims by allowing its infrastructure to be used as a hunting ground and by allowing users to run scripts that deleted message history, eliminating evidence of criminal conduct. Discord has responded by saying that 764 has no place on Discord or anywhere in society, that they use machine learning and human content moderation, and that they cooperate with law enforcement. They banned 34,000 accounts in 2023 alone. They filed 58 separate reports against Bradley Cadenhead's accounts to law enforcement before his arrest. Remember, he's the little brat from Texas that started 764. 58 reports about him. They banned those accounts. But all he'd do is create a new account in seconds. Every time he was banned, he was kicked off hundreds of times by his own account. He said it was a minor inconvenience. He was still operating. I have questions about whether 34,000 bans and machine learning are sufficient responses when children are being unalived on your servers. It's being broadcast on your servers. Roblox, where 764 makes first contact with nearly every victim, boasts more than 150 million daily users. Roughly 40% are under 13 years old, you guys. 13. 16 civil lawsuits have been filed on behalf of families who allege their children were initially targeted by predators on Roblox. The company has announced new safety protocols, including AI-powered age estimations. Critics noted that children have already found workarounds. Roblox also owns a server on Discord, which makes the claim that predatory activity moved off the platform after initial contact, considerably more complicated than the company has publicly acknowledged. Jason, Penelope's dad, said of Roblox leadership, "I hold the owners of the platform on the same level as the predators that exist within them. They operate with no conscience. They are aware of how much damage they're doing to kids, and they give no thought to it." One of the senators stood up and said, "Do you all agree that as a nation we have miserably failed our children? That we have hearings, we talk, and we've done very little to protect them?" And the witnesses said yes. So think about that. Some little kid on Roblox, they get talked into going on Discord. Next thing you know, you get them to send you a photo. Then you start controlling them, getting them to do horrendous things. And I'm not going into detail on all of the acts that they get these children to do. You don't need to hear every deviant thing. You just need to know that it's happening. It's out there if you want to listen to it on YouTube. There's several videos where they're talking about how to help parents. And we do want to help parents, but I don't think we have to get down in the mud and hear every little detail. And here's where things stand as of tonight. The FBI has classified 764 as a Terror 1 threat, the highest possible designation, the same category as they put ISIS. 764 is now handled by FBI's Counterterrorism Division. Canada formally designated 764 as a terrorist organization in December of 2025, one of our first countries in the world to do so. As of late 2025, the FBI had more than 350 active investigations connected to 764 across all 55 field offices. You know, the thing is that the sexual extortation, can't even say it now. I need a drink.
Exploitation?
Sextortion.
Sextortion. Okay. All right.
Sextortion. Thanks, Doc. But the sextortion, it has gotten so bad, and the photos have gotten so bad on 764 that some of their neo-Nazi followers have left. Now, when you're chasing out neo-Nazis because they realize it's turning into a child creeper site, that has to say something. Think about it. I mean, just wow. In November of 2025, we can't emphasize this enough. This is a major issue in America that not enough people know about this. The international scope is larger than most people realize. At the end of January 2025, the same week that Walker and Brogue were arrested, Europol hosted a 3-day operational meeting dedicated entirely to the Comm. On one day, 100 intelligence and police officers from around the globe convened to exchange information. 50 of those participants then spent 2 additional days working active cases together, identifying network members, safeguarding victims. That is the scale of the coordination now being deployed against these groups. In April of 2025, 2 alleged leaders of 764 subgroup called 764 Inferno were arrested. Leondos, I don't know. He's known as War. He's a U.S. citizen residing in Greece, and Paran's Nepal, known as Trippy, of North Carolina. Their group operated on encrypted messaging platforms and exploited at least 8 minors, some as young as 13. Both face life in prison if convicted. The Attorney General has called it one of the most heinous online child exploitation enterprises we have ever encountered, a network built on terror, abuse, and the deliberate targeting of children. Among their identified victims, a young woman in Red Deer, Alberta, Canada, we'll call her Trinity, who first reported her exploitation to the RCMP in July of 2021. She didn't hear back until the FBI requested a meeting with her in 2024. 3 years. She reports it to the Canadian authorities and nobody calls her back. She's provided investigators a list of perpetrators' names. Trippy was on it. There's also a Canadian father whose 15-year-old daughter died of unaliving herself after being exploited by 764 members for at least 2 years. He says he missed the early warning signs, including the self-harm happening right in front of him. He continues to be harassed by people he believes are connected to the network. So they still reach out and harass these people. Germany has arrested the man believed to be the White Tiger, the suspected orchestrator of Jay's unaliving in June of 2025. He is charged with Jay's murder and more than 200 counts of SA and violence against 30 victims across multiple countries. He's denied all charges, of course, and in Congress, legislation has been introduced that would make it federal crime to coerce children into physical harming themselves or others. At a hearing, a mother named Tommy testified her son James took his life after becoming a victim of sextortion. She says, "I would give anything to have my son back. But if my son's face, if my tears can save your grandchildren, I'm going to make sure it happens." The bill hasn't passed yet, and I have questions about the timeline on that. Why is it taking so long? Here's the Titan version. I don't want to end this show without giving parents something they can actually use. I don't want to just blow up your world and not make you realize that there is some hope out there. There is complete guidance from the Department of Homeland Security, the FBI, and the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, the agencies that wrote the playbook. First, the warning signs. Some of you expect. Others are things most parents would never connect to an online network. Watch for self-harm in the form of symbols or characters carved or written on your child's body. Watch for scars and patterns that is branding. The network is specific for it. Cut signs, blood signs, fan signs, marks of membership and submission. If you see them, you're not looking at a mental health crisis in isolation. You may be looking at a crime scene. Watch for the sudden interest in neo-Nazi symbolism, satanic imagery, or an obsession with mass shooters. Watch for alphanumeric combinations in names or handles. Those are markers of network affiliation. Watch if your child all of a sudden is wearing long sleeves or turtlenecks, covering parts that they never did before. If they no longer, you take them swimming and they're wearing a t-shirt or things that they didn't do before. Watch for a child who begins expressing that nothing has meaning, that morals don't matter, that rules don't apply, a nihilistic shift that feels like it came from nowhere. Watch for animals in the home that seem suddenly afraid of your child or that have been harmed. Watch for law enforcement being called to your home under false pretenses. Watch for unexpected deliveries from strangers. It's a form of harassment designed to avoid triggering a 911 call. And watch for what HSI calls cult cut shows, cut stages, or watch parties, live streamed events where network members gather to watch acts of self-harm in real time. One of them, they made one young girl cut her own hair while they watched and laughed and made fun of her. And she sat there and was crying, and then they made her put her hair in her mouth and apologize to them. These people are just sick. They're twisted, sick little puppies. Mm-hmm. And you'll find them in their messages. They treat it as a crisis. And if a protection order is suddenly served against you while you're actively trying to protect your child, know that this has been documented as a 764 tactic. Don't give up. Do not stop fighting. If you suspect your child is involved, here's exactly what to do. This comes directly from Homeland Security. Stay calm. Panic escalates the situation and can drive a child toward the network for protection. And that's one thing with Penelope's dad. Him and her mother were so calm. And it just blows my mind how they were doing everything right. But you still do it. You still stay calm. Take the device offline immediately. Airplane mode before anything else. This prevents the offender from remotely wiping evidence. Save everything. Do not delete a thing. Everything on that device is potential evidence, even if it is a picture of your child without their clothes on. Do not reach out to the network, the friends, or the community yourself. If they contact you, do not respond. Contact law enforcement and give them access to all devices. Do not transfer images from your child's device to another device. Disseminating child SA material is illegal, even with good intentions. So by you changing it to another phone, you're sending it off. And here's what the FBI says to tell your kids directly, because parents cannot be everywhere, and children need to know this too. Be selective about what you share online. Open accounts tell a predator a great deal about you very quickly. Be wary of anyone you encounter for the first time online. Be aware that people can be anyone. Videos and photos are not proof of identity, especially with AI right now, people. Be suspicious if someone you met on one platform asks you to move the conversation somewhere else. That is stage 1 of the playbook. That's the move. Know that nothing actually disappears online. And if something doesn't feel right, block, report, and tell an adult. We have to have these adult conversations, sadly, with our children. Being a victim of sextortion is not your fault. You can get through it. There are people who want to help. You can report it to the Know to Protect tip line at 833-591-KNOW or 5669. Tips go directly to the HSI field office. There's also the NCMEC cyber tip line, the FBI tip line, 1-800-CALL-FBI. The HSI tip line is 1-877-4-HSI-TIP. If explicit images of your child are already online, go to takeitdown.ncmec.org. They do a free service to remove sexual images of minors from the internet. For survivor support, dhs.gov/know-to-protect/survivor-support. And if your child or anyone you love is in crisis right now, 988. Call or text anytime. We have to protect our children. We can't make them feel like they've done something wrong and blame them immediately because they've been coerced into this. They're young. Their brains are not fully functional. These people have playbooks on how to get your children to do these things. So there are people out there to help. We know not all social media is bad. When it's used properly, social media is great. You stay in touch with your family, you connect with people that you have hobbies with. But when you have people that come into these groups that have evil intent, you have to protect your child with the armor so that they know when something's not right. You have to give them the things to say, this isn't how it should be. No one should isolate me. Nobody should ask for my picture. No one has the right to see me without my clothes on. Make sure your child is not sharing where they go to school. They don't need to share their name. Have them log in under a different name. Give them an avatar. Don't always have them putting their picture out there. And as parents and grandparents, be selective of what you put out there for your children. Really think about that, because that's a way we can protect our kids too. But let's go ahead. We're going to look at some missing people. Oh, okay. That's skip that one. Ooh. Okay. Remember, you can save a life tonight by remembering these faces. We know that sometimes people leave voluntarily and then they get in trouble and they can't get out. So please, watch the faces and we know that trafficking and disappearances happen. So we're going to pay attention. If you pass somebody and you think something's odd, if you recognize somebody and it doesn't sit right, don't assume someone else is going to call 911. You do it. You can also email tips to us at tips@trialjunkiesunited@gmail.com. We're going to pass along that information. Even the smallest detail can help a family. So let's remember that. You have the power to save a life tonight. Now, this is, whoops, there we go. Let's see. There, no. Did I do something wrong? I think I might have.
You looking for that the next one, or?
Yeah, I think I put her information in wrong. Boop, boop. It happens. Okay, well, let's see. I can quickly find it. And that's what I will do, because I want to get this right. Not that I'm going to pronounce her last name right, people. I'm sorry.
It's a doozy.
Yeah. Such a sweet girl, too. Her name is Alice Janelle. Ugh. I don't know.
Wanbadiska?
17.
I don't know.
Something. Yeah, that sounds good to me, Doc. She's 17. She's been missing since March 20th of 2026. Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada. She was last seen around 12 p.m. in the Fort Richmond area. She's 5 foot tall, thin build, black hair, medium length, and brown eyes. Please, the case number is R as in Robert 26-15860. If you have seen her, contact the Winnipeg Police at 204-986-6250. You can also contact the Bear Clan at 204-794-3568. You can also contact Crime Stoppers at 1-800-222-8477 if you want to remain anonymous, or Morgan's Warriors Search Team at 204-996-9347. And then let's see. Our next one. Let's make sure.
Chance K?
Chance. Yes, this is Chance K. He's been missing since March 29th of 2024. He was 35 when he went missing, so he's probably around 37 now, from Gravenhurst, Ontario, Canada. He was last seen in the area of the Skyways Motel on Highway 11. Chance left the area without a vehicle or his cell phone. It's believed he may have entered the wooded area near the motel. He has brown eyes. His hair's kind of reddish brown. He's 5'8". They said he's thin. He was last seen wearing black Adidas hoodie, and it's in the picture there, and a green track pants. He has tattoos, a full back tattoo, CRP on his upper back, sleeve on the left and right forearms, a tattoo on his abdomen of driftwood, and multiple face tattoos. So contact Ontario Provincial Police at 1-888-310-1122. The case number is E as in Edward 2403-79418. Then we have LaShonda Defender. She's 23. She's been missing since February 27th of 2026 from Pierre, South Dakota. She is about 5'5", 160 to maybe 200 pounds. They weren't sure. She has brown hair, brown eyes. She wears glasses. She has a tattoo of Hello Kitty on her left shoulder. Now, she was last seen outside her apartment with her head down. These circumstances are really sketchy, you guys. Her family has not seen or heard from her since February 27th of 2026. They said her behavior has really changed significantly prior to her disappearance. They report the man she was with has been exhibiting controlling and isolating behavior. They're really concerned. Michael John Smith, also known as John Smith or Reverend Smith, Lord have mercy, was last known to be with LaShonda at the time of her disappearance. There was a 17-year-old minor who was attempting to check on LaShonda, and this idiot pulled a gun on the kid. This Reverend whatever. Yeah, because he was just wanting to check on LaShonda. So contact the Prairie Police Department, Officer Cordum, at 605-773-7410. And this is the part that really ticks me off. The police department at first wouldn't file a missing person report because they had a conversation with a correctional officer who worked at the woman's prison, who's John's personal friend. And this correctional officer told them that he thought she was fine. Yeah, well, we don't believe you.
Yeah,
liar, liar,
yeah.
Pants on fire.
Yeah, the police need to lean on this guy.
Yeah. So tonight we talked about Jay. We said his name. We talked about a college student who was being blackmailed and chose to walk into a police station and say, this is not okay. We saw her courage out loud, even though her name belongs to her alone. We talked about Penelope. We said her name. We discussed Elliot and his mother, Dana, who's still trying to understand what was done to her son in plain sight. We talked about Rohan Ran, Caleb Merritt, who pleaded guilty 3 days ago, Colin Walker and Clint Borge. We said their names too, because accountability means naming names. We talked about Bradley Cadenhead, who built 764 out of broken childhood and turned it into a global machine of suffering. He's serving 80 years. The machine he built is still running. We talked about the children who did not survive and the parents who are still standing in the rubble, testifying to Senate committees, filing lawsuits, and speaking to every camera that will have them, because silence is the only thing they cannot afford. They're also protecting your children and grandchildren and nieces and nephews. I want you to think about that. There is legislation sitting in Congress right now that would make it a federal crime to coerce children into harming themselves. It's not passed. Think about that. Tell them Tommy sent you. Tell them Jay sent you. Tell them Penelope sent you. Because every killer, every predator, they depend on our silence, you guys. So don't give it to them. If you know something, speak up, because it wasn't a mannequin. It never is. And we do know that somebody always knows something. So if you see it, please reach out. This was a tough case. This was a hard one to talk about. But these children need to be protected. And we need to have these serious conversations. You know, tell the kid, hey, as your parent or your grandparent, I've seen you naked. Big deal. You know, I'm not going to get shocked at seeing you now just because you're a little older. Don't make it a crime for them to come and be honest with you. Be there for them. I thank you guys for coming tonight. I wrote a special song at the end here. I hope it touches your heart as much as I really like this song. It just, something came to me and it just came together really quickly. After dark on Thursday night, we'll be telling another, well, actually it'll be on Wednesday night this week.
Yeah.
We'll be on Wednesday night because we have an appointment on Thursday. So Wednesday night, we'll be telling another MMIP story. We thank you guys for coming tonight. It means everything when you're here with us. And we know silence is betrayal. That's why we told this story. We're grateful for your support. Please share. Let's get this one out there. Please get people to pay attention to this story. And until next time, please stay informed, stay compassionate, keep seeking the truth, keep demanding justice, never stop speaking up. Okay, I can breathe now. Doc, do you want to tell everybody good night?
Well, in simplicity's sake, I'll just say good night, everybody.
This was a tough one, guys. Thank you for hanging out with us and getting this told. We love you. Remember, criminals never stop, and so neither do we. We'll see you on Thursday.
It's Wednesday.
Wednesday. Hey, I'm just here now. Yep. I'm kind of mush for the rest of the night. Love you guys. Listen to the song. Ciao.
We taught you not to talk to strangers. Don't take candy, don't get in the car. Run if someone makes you feel in danger. Baby, you were safe, but then we left the door ajar. We handed you a screen and told you to play. We said, I'll check on you, you're right down the hall. But the stranger didn't need to find you along the way. We gave him a window into your bedroom wall. And he learned your name, he learned your favorite song. He said, I'm your friend. He said, you can tell me everything that's wrong. And you believed him, baby. How could you have known? He was hunting in the light from the safety of your home. The stranger on the screen doesn't look the way we wore. No trench coat, no dark alley. He's a profile picture perfectly formed. He said, don't tell your mama. He said, this is just between us two. Baby, that's not friendship. That's a predator coming for you. You sent a photo, just one. You thought you didn't know that moment had a price. Now one photo turned your whole world into a cage, and it'll make you feel like you're the one to blame. They build these groups and they share the images. They trade our babies like they're nothing, like they're things. We scroll our feeds and think we know our kids, but we don't see the messages that crawling after dark. And they call it grooming. It's a gentle word for war. They weaponize your loneliness, then they come back asking more. And you're so young, you don't know what you owe. You don't know this isn't love. You don't know it's a show. The stranger on the screen doesn't look the way we wore. No trench coat, no dark alley. He's a profile picture perfectly formed. He said, don't tell your mama. He said, this is just between us two. Baby, that's not friendship. That's a predator coming for you. Somewhere tonight, a child believes a stranger's scream more than their mama's arms. Somewhere tonight, they're keeping secrets, too young to know the price of it, too ashamed to knock upon our door, too afraid of what we think of them once more. Baby, come home, baby, come home. You are not the one who did wrong. The stranger at the screen learned everything we taught. He knows we said run from strangers, so he made your baby think he's not. He said, I see you, I hear you. He said, no one loves you like I do. Baby, that's the script they all run. That's a predator coming for you. Talk to your children, tell them it's not their fault. Tell them the photo doesn't make them bad. Tell them you won't be angry. Tell them to come to you before the stranger at the screen tells them